Welcome everybody, it's Friday, so we're gonna have our newest set of videos scheduled for Fridays, which are
tier list.
Yes, tier list on a weekly basis based on the
meta that we have on that week. Sometimes the meta doesn't change that often, but especially for raids it does change. Today we're gonna be talking about tanks in dungeons.
Mythic Plus, baby.
We're gonna talk about what we play, but also how they perform at the very top of the meta, where like the 95th percentile people play them.
Yeah, so if you have any doubts or wondering what tank to play in the current meta, we're gonna base this tier list off of the Warcraft logs for this week, and also add on top our experience with them, basically, more or less.
It's like kind of go into like what you can expect by actually playing them, not just how good it is.
Yeah, I know what else is good. Always subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell thingy, because if you enjoy our content, the class guides, these tier list videos, podcast, MoCast podcast, which is coming soon, as well as some new shit planned along the way, then it helps out. So subscribe. It's free.
Hit that bell thingy.
It helps out, please.
Oh, thank you very much. Now let's get into it.
All right, which is the first one on the list?
I think it's gonna be Blood Death Knight. All right, Blood Death Knight is a tank very close to
your sole favorite, I would imagine.
It's number one, very close with another one afterwards. But we're gonna talk about Blood Death Knight today, of course. Blood Death Knight is doing well in raids, but that's not the topic here. In dungeons.
Dungeons, yes.
The problem with Blood Death Knights...
It's a blood tank.
The problem with Death Knights in dungeons as tanks is their basic design. They will never scale as high as Vengeance, Prot Warrior, stuff like that, because their mitigation doesn't scale that way, because you have to first take the damage and then heal it.
Can I just add on this just shortly? Sure. As a healer, when I tanked in BFA, specifically Flame, like I didn't know how the blood mechanic worked, and I panicked so much. That's another thing about blood. You have to touch on this, because if you're a healer and you're trying to heal a blood decay, if you don't know how it works, you'll panic a lot and basically make use of cooldowns which aren't really necessary.
Yeah, so I guess yes, of course. I guess this is a good point to make for the healers. The the Blood Death Knight HP will yo-yo a lot, and that's normal because you have to take the damage with your HP and then heal it back up. The thing that you have to remember is that after a Blood Death Knight, a good one at least, takes a large chunk of damage, he or she will be able to heal like around 80 to 90% of that back up on their own. So you don't necessarily need to heal, like spam heal, like burst him, get him back to full. What you mostly need to do as a healer ideally is to give him damage prevention mechanics, like Iron Bark if you know he's gonna be hit by a tank buster, pain suppression, all that kind of good stuff.
Rapture, all of that.
So because of that, Blood Death Knight will suffer in terms of how high they can push keys. But there are a lot of good things that Blood Death Knights can do. They have a lot of crowd control, especially if you play Necro Lords. You have a lot of grip, because we know
that thing with the hands pulling everybody in.
Because like because Blizzard doesn't like us to like grab everything, put it like in one spot and just burst it down. Now we have a lot more ranged shooters that don't move at all. You cannot interrupt them to get them into melee. They just stand there. Like grips, AoE grips, and Abomination Lips are really good for that. You have a lot of very strong cooldowns, magic absorption cooldowns, which is probably what sets Blood Death Knights apart, because there is a lot of magic damage in this. There are a couple of packs that do high magic damage to the tanks, and when I hit those with another tank that's not a Blood Death Knight, it's like, holy shit, what's going on? So Blood Death Knights will excel there. They are still pushing pretty high keys. They're not at the top of the meta.
So where would you place them? Because
it depends. So in terms of tier list, like D tier is like unplayable. You're not gonna be able to do much. So no tank is actually in D tier as far as we're concerned. So I think it's a C tier. But that doesn't mean it's bad. That just means you have glaring weaknesses that they're hard to compensate unless you have the perfect combination in the team member.
Yeah, and if it's in C tier, that again, it also means that there are other specs available that can do better or are better at the job. So
then C tier is still good. I play a Blood Death Knight.
I mean, would you recommend it to
yes,
people?
I would 100% recommend it. It's not an easy tank to get into. It's a different type of mentality when it comes to tanking, but I wouldn't recommend you start with Blood Decay.
I know where to start off, but let's move along to the Brewmaster
Monk. Okay, now the Brewmaster Monk seems to be doing pretty well in
I was just gonna say this. I had the same problem with Brewmaster Monks as I did with DK because of the stagger mechanic. I didn't understand it until I saw your guide research on it.
Yeah, that's also a different damage profile. So if your HP yo-yos, that's a bad thing for Brewmasters, because Brewmasters have the smoothest damage intake baseline out of all tanks because of the stagger. That's really good. What you have to realize as a Brewmaster, mostly your healer, is that your healer cannot stop healing you. You won't take big bursts of damage, but your damage intake will be constant. And if your healer takes a pause, like, man, I think I can just DPS for like 5 seconds, no. He or she will have to like pop some serious cooldowns to bring you back up after those 5 seconds. So you're very, very reliant on your healer when you play Brewmaster Monk. That aside, Brewmaster Monk, it has probably the highest mobility out of all of the tanks.
Plus utility, Ring of Peace.
Ring of Peace, yeah, getting everything up. Now you have Dave, which is really good. Everybody praise the Dave. And overall, Brewmasters are very good at taking the damage in. They're one of the tanks that scale really well to high end, because no matter how much damage you take, a big portion of that is still smoothened out. So it's pretty high up there. I would say the damage is I saw some Brewmasters do really good damage with the Dave mechanic.
Yeah, I know, but in comparison to some other contenders,
they're doing a little bit better at the high echelon. So this is what we're talking about here, guys, is the very creme de la creme meta. Is if you want to push, I think it's plus 21s now is where people are kind of hovering at the top. So if you want to push like 21s and hopefully by the end of the season, I don't know, like 30s, Brewmaster is a good tank for you to play with, and you can still do really well overall in any other encounters. So I would say it's an A tier for sure. A tier for sure.
It has everything that you would need for a tank. I mean, if you're a little bit versatile in it, it has the mobility, the stagger mechanic, which is super cool, but you know, you need to get a little bit skillful to manage it. I know I didn't understand it the first time you did the research for it, but other than that, you know, good damage.
It's a Celestial Brew as well. We got it now. That's the old guard mechanic where you can just absorb a lot of damage.
Yeah.
That can help with magical damage, but that happens rare, and you kind of have to juggle the mechanic a little bit. So it will take a little bit of practice.
But still, A tier is pretty good. So definitely a huge recommend, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the bear, Mr. Yogi. So I played Guardian for a while because I started playing Druid in Shadowlands.
I know, right?
I gotta say, man, it's a really fun. I feel like when compared to, I only played Prot Paladin in BFA and a little bit in Shadowlands Beta, no, Alpha. And Guardian Druid has to be the easiest tank to start off. I would recommend it to anybody who would like to start, you know, get into tanking. Like, the only thing you have to be more wary of is maintaining or having always available your Iron Fur. Other than that, the cool thing about Guardians right now, I don't know how it was in BFA, but you have so many variations of talent builds. It's amazing.
You didn't have that in BFA, no. It was like 2 builds max. Yeah. 1 raid, 1 dungeon.
That's the thing, and you have so many cool legendaries. I mean, you can go for a full offensive build, like, you know, doing lots of damage. Convoke is you can be super defensive, and I like that playstyle because I'm still, you know,
you're like a fucking rock.
Yeah, I like the feeling of it, the fantasy of being like a big ass sponge. Just come on, baby, hit me up. It's cool. Having the legendary and the conduits to have your Barkskin to like 30-second cooldown is amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and also Barkskin provides, you know, frenzy regen all the time you pop it, once you enter it and once you exit it.
Jesus.
It's super cool, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's fun. If you play like defensive build, it's not that mobile, but you can go a little bit of a hybrid. We're gonna have a guide on it and explain everything about Guardian. It's fun, definitely fun. I would put it like, it doesn't perform. It's like sort of in the middle of the pack on the logs, right?
Well, actually,
I knew this was coming.
I was looking at the logs. The top 10 tanks in the world, like the top 4 are Vengeance. Then there's a Bear. And then there's like a lot of other Vengeance as well.
Okay,
well, so Bear is probably...
I would put it A tier.
Has the possibility, yes.
I would put it A tier. Do you agree?
A tier.
Yeah, with a huge
from
recommendation.
What I've seen, the effects, like you said, I've played Bear in Alpha. No, it was Beta.
Yeah.
And I did, but the legendary that's really good right now was bugged, so I couldn't really test it out. I tested out the Thrash legendary that I kept recommending you do.
Yeah.
But once I played Bear with like the proper cooldowns and everything, and even I did play that Barkskin legendary, just didn't have the procs of it felt really strong. Even without the procs,
it's super strong,
frenzy regen, I felt as like, oh my god, this skin scaled really well.
It's super strong.
And it was reminiscent of 8.3 Bear with all of the corruptions and stats. You felt incredible. It felt like you
immortal.
You would never use Bark Skin unless some shit happened. Bark Skin is already on a low cooldown.
Yeah, but that's the thing. This changes it. You can use it basically on every pool. There's no problem. And after that expires, you just maintain, because that's the thing. It gives you iron fear stacks as well. So it's really good. It's pretty good. It helps out. Again, if you're thinking of trying tanking, Guardian Druid is really easy to get into, and then you basically get the gist of it once you go a little bit more in depth. But definitely A tier. Let's move along to the Protection Paladin, man.
Okay, this guy. So Protection Paladin is in a vein with Vengeance. If you have been paying attention, it's the second best tank at dealing damage. It has some
big damage,
crazy damage output, and that's actually very good when it comes to dungeons, because the faster the pack dies, the less you'll have to tank. Since the cooldowns and the mitigation that the Paladin has, they're maybe not the best out of all of the tanks, but if the pack dies quick enough, then you don't really matter. It doesn't really matter, because all tanks have some form of mitigation that they can survive for a certain amount of time, and the longer the fight goes on, certain tanks start to like peel off.
Exactly.
Paladin is one of them. Protection Warrior can be like that. It's like you're starting to run out of cooldowns to use, and that's when it becomes dangerous. But if you have enough damage, and if your group obviously has enough damage, then that doesn't really come to play. Let me just say, man, the heals.
Oh yeah, the heals.
I was still like
you cannot heal the healer basically if you just spec into it.
No, that's you think that's just blood decay, man. But okay, that out of the way, we all know that Protection Paladins are Swiss Army knives. It's really good to have options for a lot of situations that can happen. Blessings for your party, heals, your Horde of Glory, and you can still have lay on hands. You still have the last stand
with the divine shield,
with the bubble for necrotic, for like big pulls, because like the mobs just don't gather up anymore. You have to like taunt everything, and there's with the AoE cap. And if you pull a lot of mobs, you might lose aggro on one pack because your party's doing damage on that and you're doing damage on this one. AoE taunt is
it's beautiful. Plus, I would add to that a Protection Paladin, for me at least, feels the full circle of the Paladin fantasy. You have everything in that toolkit.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the most satisfying spells in, I would say, the whole World of Warcraft is Avenger's Shield. Like the feeling you get when you throw that shit and it bounces off, plus Divine Toll.
Oh my god! Imagine pulling
all those shields.
So many shields, and you have the legendary. You have, I think, 2 legendaries that really work well with the Avenger's Shield, and it's
super good. It's useful for the party. It's a paladin. It's a hybrid. It's fun. It has the fantasy. It can deliver well. Plus, the second biggest damage as a tank in Mythic Plus. So
as far as we know so far,
as far as the meta stands this week, who knows? Maybe next week will be different. But surely, where would you put the paladin? Still an A tier?
The thing is, there's kind of a difference between. I mean, I haven't seen a lot of. There's a clear difference between Prot Pally and Bear and Prot Pally.
Oh yes.
So even though it's really good, I would put it into B tier.
But this doesn't mean anything, guys. This B tier is like super good.
Prot Paladin is kind of close to Blood Decay as well in performance.
Yeah, you mentioned this, that like if the fights last too long, then Prot Paladins can tend to get a little bit weaker.
And if you mess up your cooldowns, if you don't rotate them down, you can be really squishy.
Oh yeah.
Because Shield of the Righteous just gives you armor. It doesn't give you block like it does for Warrior. It doesn't give you parry like it does for Vengeance. Yeah. It gives you armor, and armor is still good. I mean, bears use armor pretty well, but I don't think it scales as much armor as bears do.
It's not the same scaling.
And bears already have more HP than paladins. So with paladins, you do have more defensive cooldowns. Our Defender, Guardian Ancient Kings, Bubble, and so on. But I still feel like it's almost there. It wouldn't feel really right to be on the same tier.
Yeah, it's really
that
really
doesn't mean
close.
It's bad, yeah.
Like a little bit of more armor or something added to Shield of Righteous, then it would be A tier for sure. But still, B tier is 100% recommendable.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, just go for it if you like the Paladin fantasy.
It's not an easy tank to get into, and you can get punished, but you'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, once you master it, exquisite. Yeah. All right, which is the next one?
There we go.
Prot Warrior.
The big old boy, old school. This is the first
tank. This is the favorite.
This is like if Blood Decay is #1 for me, this is like 0.5. It's like right there.
Because I see you like the Prot Warrior. Like
no, Prot Warrior is very fun. Prot Warrior right now, it's up there with Prot Paladin as the funnest tank. The difference between Prot Warrior and Prot Paladin for me is that it feels impactful when I press my buttons. If I press shield block, I know I'm not gonna get hit. If I press shield wall, I know I'm gonna absorb like a lot of damage. And They finally added sustain. They've changed the indomitable talent. When you consume rage, you heal back up, well, based on rage consumption, and that's not a new mechanic to an RPG.
No, but that's super cool. I mean, they needed that.
Yeah, I was out healing healers in certain dungeons. Not the most amazing healers, but the sustain helps obviously with magic damage, because one of the biggest problems with Pro Warrior, and it's probably why it's keeping it down, is magic damage. Dude,
yeah, I know it's good against physical, but magic damage is.
I don't know what dungeon I was in, because I was tanking. Granted, I was actually doing +2s. I was tanking some +2s with like 160 eye level gear.
All right, appropriate.
I was doing pretty good on physical damage, but once I hit that magic damage pack, my HP yo-yoed like a bloody case. That was not fun at all.
Yeah.
That's something that obviously is going to get better with gear. The strong point of Pro Warriors, like even though magic damage is a pain, Vanguard is crazy good. Vanguard is a passive that gives you 100% armor based on your strength.
Oh, right.
100% of your strength is turned into armor, so it kind of rivals better. Vanguard is what's keeping Pro Warrior into the game right now, and it always has been, because whenever they nerfed Vanguard, people couldn't play Pro Warrior. Happened at the beginning of BFA, and happened at, I don't know if it was at the beginning of Shadowlands or in beta, but they did nerf Vanguard, and it's like, oh shit, people cannot play Pro Warrior, buff Vanguard again.
No, yeah,
that's the problem. But block, if attacks are blockable, they're really good. And the thing is, Pro Warrior is the tank that will teach you the tank mechanics. It will teach you, okay, something is about to hit me very hard, let's raise my shield, let's block it. That kind of
really cool fantasy for it.
That's if you want to learn how to play a tank, Project's not easy. It's probably the hardest tank to master. And once you know, in terms of mechanics, once you know you have to know which attacks are blockable, which attacks are reflectable.
Oh, there you go.
And which are not, because you have all of your defensives, mitigation, and cooldowns do different things. And you have to use the right one for the right situation, because if you fuck up, that's it. Your healer has to like pop something out of their ass to get you back in.
But it's always the healer's fault.
But it's fast-paced, it's super fast-paced, it's very mobile. It's not as mobile as the top ones, but it's very mobile. And it's a warrior. It's a warrior at the end. It's also cool.
So where we put the
thing is, it's probably C tier. It's worse than Blood Decay, but it's not D tier. A lot of people like to shit on the Pro Warrior. So okay, get this, guys. This is basically because at the top of the meta, people want to play the best because they want to push the higher level keys. So
take that into consideration.
For instance, Rads was one of the top, and still is one of the top tanks in dungeons all around. That's been through the BFA, and he's always been a Pro Warrior. Now he's a Vengeance Demon Hunter. So you have people like Reds who are maybe one of the best Pro Warriors in dungeons in the world that are not playing Pro Warriors. So if people like that would be playing Pro Warriors, you might see Pro Warrior a little bit higher in the logs.
Yeah.
In terms of the tier list, I think it's C. And even with Blood Decay and Warrior, I might still put them at a higher tier. But right now, it's just there has to be a clear difference between how they perform. So it's not that they're bad, but there's a difference between Paladin and the other two.
Well, okay, so now the hero of this meta, the King Supreme, the
King Supreme, the big Kahuna, the one who's like been drying his left arm like a hot chick in a red dress in the summer on the street.
Vengeance Demon Hunter.
All right, guys.
Man. All right.
So listen.
I mean, does it? Let me ask this: does it lack anything? Because it feels it has everything.
It's not a perfect tank. So the thing with Vengeance right now is that it deals a lot of damage. It has the most amount of damage out of all of the tanks.
Is that the biggest appeal right now? Because
it's because like I said, damage is important in Mythic Plus. The faster the pack dies, the better it is, and there's a difference between a 1k DPS tank and a 3k DPS tank.
Well, sure.
Being able to do like at least twice as much damage, it's essentially like having half of a DPS player extra in your group.
Well, yeah.
So that counts overall, it matters. Obviously, Vengeance still has really good tankiness options with Demon Spikes, giving you a lot of parry chance. You have Fiery Brand now and a couple of tweaks that you can play with Fiery Brand, which is really cool. Fiery Brand can give you, it's kind of like the shield wall of Vengeance. So it's basically really good. It helps with magic damage as well, because you can also heal a lot like Blood Decays, and you have the passive magic damage reduction, which is the only tank and class in the game that has passive magic damage reduction.
Plus it's super mobile.
And it's very mobile because with the like I said, with the issues that it has, with the weaknesses, because the cooldowns just go away after a while, you can just leap out.
That's the thing, right? So you mentioned like basically Vengeance is kind of squishy outside of its cooldowns, but due to the mobility, it's really easy to get away. And if you obviously in high keys, if you're like pushing, you know all your party members know what to do if you're really getting out of it. especially in Necrotic. I know we played with Cabal,
Yeah.
and then Necrotic, and it was pretty easy for him to just get away, right?
You just also have the seals, so like grab shit,
the seals. Everything is mass, right?
Yeah.
Mass fear, mass silence, mass pull.
Mass grip. It's really good. It helps with. That's amazing utility to have in a dungeon.
Definitely. But would you recommend it to the good people out there?
That's the thing, right? Because
I never liked it. I tried to play it. Remember when I tried to play it in BFA?
It doesn't,
and I didn't like it at all.
It's probably one of the first times that it actually feels like a tank, because at the end of BFA it started to feel like a tank, where when you press Demon Spikes, you know you're a tank. It's fun. It's a fun one to get into. If you want to consistently push hires, I would recommend it if you're willing to swap from it if balance occurs, because the performance of Vengeance Demon Hunter is way above other tanks, and it reminds me of Prot Warriors in 8.2 when they were like just killing all the other tanks. Oh
yeah, I remember that. I was seeing in MDI as well.
Yeah, it's like just Prot Warriors everywhere, and I feel like Vengeance Demon Hunter is in a similar vein, and we know Prot Warriors were nerfed after that, so it wouldn't be surprising if Vengeance Demon Hunters would be toned down a little bit. So if you're like the flavor of the month player and you just want to play the best of the best, you can have fun with Vengeance now, but expect some tuning downs.
Like Marksman would expect some tunings down. But we should put this into S tier.
Yeah, it's clear it's not on the same level as Brew and Bear, so it has to be a clear difference.
It has to be on the S tier. Just, you know, as we said in the beginning, we're looking at the logs. We're also talking about our experiences with these tanks and how it works, how easy they are, how complicated they are, what are their strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. Overall, this is the image of the tank tier list.
The tank tier list for if you want to push. But like I said, guys, it's we are strongly against the community perception of, oh my god, if Prot Warriors applying to my group, I'm not inviting that guy, I need a Vengeance in my group. Don't think like that, because
it's not like that. No, listen, you would want in your group a very skilled Prot Warrior or Paladin rather than a flavor of the month unskilled Vengeance Demon Hunter. Right, so don't go making like choices when you're playing something like Dungeons and Raids based on tier lists. This is something like we like to do, discuss upon, hey, how is the meta looking? Why is it like this, right? And maybe help out a little bit on making your decision on what to play. But that being said, look at this tier list. Like D tier is the unplayable. There's none of these tanks are in that category. You can play any of these tanks
hardly ever
and have success
in the
with
game are unplayable.
Yeah, I think at this point, like, there's no BFA Shadow Priest at the beginning or Enhanced Shaman, right? Everyone can do something, right? Yeah. So this is what you have to take out of this tier list, right? Don't put your mindset on, you know, rejecting all players that are you see in the C tiers or something. Yeah, that's not the point.
And if you think we're not practicing what we preach, I personally am playing Blood Decay and Prot Warrior, and will soon get my Prot Paladin, which are all three at the bottom of the tier list. And Marcelian is playing Bear, which is not Vengeance.
It's you know, it's what we always like to play with the underdogs. But you know, that being said, this is it. We want to first of all thank all of our Patreons
Thank you very much, guys.
Supporting every month we get to do all of this, and it's amazing. We have all of this planned out with the class guides, with the weekly tier lists, and the MoCast podcast coming
2021 up. My man.
Full force. There's a lot of good stuff coming. A lot of the guides are coming and are in work right now for the tanks you've seen here, like this, you know, Guardian. You have a 60 Prot Warrior, so I'm expecting
I have a 60
something.
Prot Warrior, 60 Blood Decay. I wonder what's all about that.
Right. So thank you to the Patreons, also to the admins on Discord and subs and mods on Twitch. Thank you so much, guys. And
Twitch.tv/MarcelianOnline. We stream everything, so if you want to see us play all of these specs, eventually we will play them on the stream, because we're still leveling a bunch of stuff right now. But we do stream 5 days a week, Monday to Thursday, and then Saturday with the big ass stream where we do raids and dungeons with you.
Yes, and thank you for watching the video. Remember, we do this every Friday, so we'll catch you next Friday with a brand new tier list on healers, this time for Mythic Plus. So be on the lookout for that.
Take care, everybody. Have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye!
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.